We've got something a little bit different for you in today's video. So I'm not going to be heading out on the stunning Cornish trails. I'm actually going to be running on the hard stuff. Although I'm not sure how hard it will feel in today's video when I've got these bad boys on my feet. I mean, look at the crazy depth of cushioning in that midsole. Completely bonkers, totally bonkers. But this is the all new Super Trainer from the Saucony brand, the Kinvara Pro. Now, when I heard that they were developing this shoe, I wasn't sure what direction they were taking the very popular Kinvara model in, but it did get me very interested and I wanted to test it out to see how it feels to run in. And that is exactly what we're doing today. So let's jump into the video and let's take the Kinvara Pro out for its first run. Welcome back, folks, and thanks for joining us for another video. Hope everybody is fit and well out there. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. Now, if you have been enjoying the content and finding it helpful but you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, then maybe today is the day. Literally takes a second to do just by clicking on that little red box there down in the corner, and it is completely free, but it's definitely a massive help to the channel and greatly appreciated. Just before we dive into a few facts and figures on the new Kinvara Pro, yep, we've got another very white running shoe to test and review at the channel. In fact, it is a very, very white running shoe this time round. This is actually the US colorways that I've been sent by Saucony, so don't worry if you are in Europe, there is some other colorways available. So you've got a super blue, indigo and a slime green in men's, and you've got an indigo mauve and a white ink in women's. So if you're not a fan of bright white running shoes, there is some other color options available. Okay, so let's get stuck into the construction, and I think it'd only be right if we start with this crazy looking midsole setup first on the Kinvara Pro. So we've actually got a dual compound setup. So that bottom layer of cushioning is Power Run, and then the top layer is their high energy returning performance compound Power Run PB. Sandwiched between those two layers is a 3/4 length carbon plate. And then last but not least, you also get a pair of their brilliant Power Run Plus insoles inside the shoe. When you add up all those cushioning layers and the carbon plate, believe it or not, you get a stack height of 34 mil, not on the heel, that is under your forefoot, and a bonkers high 42 mil on the heel. That gives you an 8 mil heel offset, but it also goes over the legal limit of 40 millimeters by World Athletics. So these are definitely a training option and not a shoe that you want to be lacing up on race day. We've also got the brilliant speed roll technology worked into that midsole setup, and I'm a massive fan of that midsole geometry from Saucony. And then if I flip them over in true Kinvara style, we've got a fully exposed Power Run outsole. So there's no blown rubber in sight on the Kinvara Pro, and this is obviously a weight saving option by the brand, but it's going to be really interesting to see how durable that Power Run foam is when you're out there on the road. When it comes to the price of the shoe, which we'll get onto in a minute, you definitely want these to be a very, very durable training option. You can actually see the carbon plate there poking through the midfoot, and I'm really hoping that this kind of flex groove that Saucony have worked into the midsole isn't going to become a stone trap, because that is definitely one of my pet hates when it comes to running shoes. Something that I was really surprised about, because with this being pitched as a sort of super training shoe, when I popped it on the scales in a UK 9.5, they actually weigh in at 302 grams, and I thought that was pretty heavy for a sort of performance driven training shoe. Obviously, a lot of that weight comes down to this multi-layered, deeply cushioned midsole setup. And if we work our way up the shoe, we've got this nice lightweight, highly breathable, engineered mesh construction. You get a gusseted tongue. I'm always a fan of that in a running shoe. And I'd say it's got a moderate level of padding in the tongue and around the ankle collar. If you take a real close look at that engineered mesh, we've got lots of tiny TPU stripes worked all the way over the shoe, and we've got some overlays running around those lace eyelets, just to give that upper a bit more substance, but also to help when it comes to durability. We've got a good level of structure in the back end of that upper with a nice sturdy heel cradle, and then finishing off, you get some nice high-vis detailing in the back end of the shoe, and we've got a handy pull tab on the heel. So there you have it, folks. Saucony's latest super training shoe, the Kinvara Pro. It's definitely going to be the deepest stacked road shoe I've ever run in, and I'll have to make sure I remember to duck as I leave the house under the door, because I don't want to bang my head on the door frame with this midsole being so high. Really interested to see how they feel to run in and how they perform there out on the road. I'm also interested to see how they stack up. Get it? Stack up, stack? Yeah, terrible, sorry, but I'm also really interested to see how they stack up against the other sort of super training shoe in Saucony's lineup, the Endorphin Speed 3. So without further ado, let's get these bad boys laced up and let's get running. Okay, so I've just popped off the road for a second just to get away from all the chaos and all the noise that we get in Cornwall at summertime. And I realised that I left you hanging in the studio and I never told you the price of the Kinvara Pro. Now, I want you to go and get a chair, sit down before I tell you, just in case. So this new shoe from Saucony retails for a hefty £200 here in the UK. So yep, it is another very expensive running shoe indeed. So clearly the running shoe world is still going crazy, but the plan for today is, with it being a super trainer, I thought I'd get in a real sort of mixed bag of paces in today's run. So we started off at a nice sort of steady 8:15 pace, just bobbing along on the roads. Now we're going to push on a bit, do a bit of tempo pace, because at the end of the day, this is a training shoe, so you want it to be able to handle lots of different aspects of your training. But so far so good. So we're 2.5 miles in, and I've got to say, the Kinvara Pro feels great straight out the box. Like most Saucony shoes, it's fitting my foot shape like a glove, and that dual compound midsole is feeling great. Super bouncy along there, and it feels very efficient to run in. So obviously only been doing sort of 8-15 minute miling, but it felt very easy, and the stack height doesn't feel crazy high actually when you're running, and the shoe feels nice and balanced. So even though it is just over 300 grams in a UK 9.5, it actually runs a lot lighter than that. So first impressions are pretty good, and I don't know whether you noticed that I'm actually wearing this pretty snazzy kit that Saucony just sent me. So it's part of their heritage range. So we've got one of their flow tees on, and we've got their Pace 5-inch shorts. Loving this flow kit that they've produced. Performance kit, super lightweight. I mean, it's almost transparent, but very light, really airy to run in, especially when it's quite hot and humid. The heritage range is actually part of their celebration of being a brand for 10 years. Pretty incredible, really. So I've got to say a quick happy birthday to Saucony, and well done for, you know, producing some really interesting, great performing running kit. But let's crack on with this run. We're going to hopefully do 7 miles, and like I said, get a big mix of different paces in the new Kinvara Pro. So let's crack on. Okay, a good couple of miles there at sort of tempo pace, 7 minute flat or just under. If it looks like I'm sort of welling up on camera, the run's going well, but I'm not getting upset about it. It is hay fever. I don't know how you guys are finding it this year. Seems like a pretty bad year to me, and my eyes are streaming. Well, I have to say it, the Kinvara Pro really liked it when I upped the pace. It came to life. That awesome speed roll geometry felt super efficient at pace, and that Power On PB midsole layer felt super bouncy, returning lots of energy. I'm not sure I could feel the carbon plates, hard to tell really, but the midsole really did spring to life when I ran quicker. Also, the other day, just to sort of remind myself how it felt, I did a few miles in the Endorphin Speed 3. I've never been fully convinced with that shoe since it changed from the 2 to 3. Feels a bit flatter now, doesn't feel as exciting to run in. And I've got to say it, the Kinvara Pro is definitely feeling a lot livelier. It's definitely exciting to run in. It's just got more pop in the midsole, feels more efficient. It's definitely outperforming that Endorphin Speed 3. Okay, that is the run pretty much done, and it's going to be just over 7 miles by the time we get home. And it has been a great first run in the Kinvara Pro. I've got to say, it's probably the best my legs have felt out on the road for a long time, and I don't think that's completely down to the shoe. I have got some very consistent training over the last couple of months, but I'm sure the shoe has helped. So let's get back to the studio and break down the performance in a bit more detail. So we got in 8 miles in the end, which is a really good distance to get in a brand new shoe straight out the box. And I actually feel like I'm getting somewhere when it comes to my training, which is definitely a good thing, because in just over 3 weeks, myself and Liga are going to have to run 48 miles around the stunning island of Jersey in the Round the Rock race. I've got to be honest, I was feeling a little bit worried about the whole thing, but now I've managed to get some consistency in my training after the last month or so. I'm actually really excited about the race. I'm also pretty excited about this latest road offering from Saucony, the Kinvara Pro, because it really did run well out there this morning, and to be honest, quite a bit better than I was expecting. The upper feels really premium, so very soft internally. I got a good level of hold and support from the heel, and a nice lockdown around my midfoot from that gusseted tongue. I literally popped it on indoors, tied those laces, stepped outside, started running, and I didn't really give the upper a second thought. I didn't have to stop during the run and retie the laces to get the fit right, and it didn't feel like it needed 2 or 3 runs to sort of bed in. It just felt great straight away. So very plush, wrapped around my foot. When it comes to the sizing, I'd say it's true to size, so this UK 9.5 fits just right on length, and it gave me average width in the toe box. The biggest surprise for me has to be midsole performance, because before I went out on the run, I really wasn't sure about the height of that midsole. Definitely the sort of deepest stack I've ever run in when it comes to a road running shoe, and I thought it might feel like you're sort of running on a pair of stilts, but I'm happy to report that definitely wasn't the case, and it actually just ran like a normal running shoe when it comes to the stack height. I'm also happy to report that I didn't bang my head on the door frame as I left the house to go out on the run. The dual compound setup on that midsole seemed to work really well, so we've got that top layer of Saucony's Performance Foam Power Run PB, which gave me lots of underfoot comfort, but it also felt like it was really sort of springing me along. And if you've ever run in a shoe with Power Run PB in the midsole, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because it is a very bouncy compound indeed. And then we've got that bottom layer of slightly firmer Power Run that makes me feel nice and planted as I was running along, even though you've got that sort of deep stack height. So I think the combination of them two foams gives you a real good balance between comfort, performance and stability. And we mustn't forget about that brilliant Saucony speed roll technology worked in there as well. Like I said, I've always been a massive fan of this, and all the shoes that I've run in with that geometry have performed really well for me. But I personally think the Kinvara Pro is probably one of the best, and dare I say it, I think it's even up there with the Endorphin Pro 3, and I'd actually say this is kind of a training version of that shoe. So very efficient at all tempos. Even when I started the run, I was warming up nice and steady. Really felt like that shoe was kind of helping me in that forward motion, and then when I picked up the pace, it became super responsive and felt very snappy, and it was like the shoe just wanted me to turn my legs over quicker and run faster. I actually think they'd make a great marathon day shoe, but I don't really know how that works. With that midsole height being over the legal limit of 40 millimeters, say if I wore them for London or Berlin, you know, one of the major marathons, ran a really good time and they found out, would I get disqualified, thrown into jail, or even worse, banned from running races for life? I really don't know, but I do think they'd perform really well over that distance. So you can see a very positive first outing, and I'm actually excited to lace them up again and take them out for another spin. But there are a couple of things I'm not so happy about. Obviously, the first one being the £200 price point. You know, that is pretty expensive for a daily trainer, especially when there's some real solid training options out there nowadays for kind of half the price of these. So I'd like to see the Kinvara Pro sort of retail for somewhere around the sort of £150, £160 price point. I'm happy to say we didn't get any stones stuck in that flex groove on the midsole there, which is always a positive thing in my book. But I'm still not fully convinced that a fully exposed power run foam outsole is the way to go on a £200 training shoe. I think a bit of blown rubber in the high wear areas would have been a much more durable option, but I really do think it came down to weight. With them weighing in at 300 grams already in a UK 9.5, if you had have added blown rubber to that outsole, it would have definitely increased the weight of the overall shoe by some margin. And maybe Saucony thought that that would put people off it, with it being a performance trainer. To be fair, I've run in a lot of Kinvaras in the past with a very similar sort of exposed outsole setup, and that power run foam does hold up to the mileage really well. The difference is this time round is these cost £200 a pair and not say £115 or £120 a pair. So you definitely want to get lots of training miles out of them. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be putting lots of miles into the Kinvara Pro to see how that exposed outsole holds up, and then we'll be back on the channel with a full in-depth review. So there you have it, folks, our first impressions on Saucony's latest super trainer, the Kinvara Pro. I've got to say it, one of the best first runs I've had in a road shoe for some time, but really hope you enjoyed it, really hope you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back here very, very soon. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, stay safe and keep on running. Down there in the corner, and it is completely free, but it's definitely a big champ to the channel. Saucony have actually sent me the US colorway, so it is actually available in some other color options in Europe. So you've got the indigo blue, super blue. It really did run well. We've got another very white running shoe to test and review. In fact, it's a very white, very